If everyone could take their seats, please. The chair will call to order today's October 22nd, 2013 meeting of the Board of Education of CUSD 201. Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Caparelli?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Notbush?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, we'd like to just take a moment of silence to remember the junior high students at the school shooting in Nevada. Okay, the first item on the agenda, approval of minutes. For September 24th, I just had one small change on page 5. It has RTI as right to intervention, and I believe that's response to intervention. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the September 24th, 2013 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the September 24th, 2013 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
October 8th. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the October 8th, 2013 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the October 8th, 2013 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then the next item is public comments. We're going to start with the WTA, which celebrates success, and then we will move on to other public comments.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for having us. We're from Miller School, and we wanted to tell you some of the fine things that we are doing at Miller School, and particularly things our students are doing. So,
Hi, I'm Joanne Slott. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Miller.
and I'm Peggy Chapinski, doing everything this year, a little bit of everything. So,
We wanted to talk about our community connections with our school. Last year, I implemented a program where our fourth graders visited the library once a month. So once a month, we took a trip to the library. Actually, they've become more familiar and comfortable utilizing our library. And a lot of the kids that would have never gone to the library now feel very comfortable going there and using the facility. Also, we're talking about our student council. I am one of the co-sponsors along with Kathy Labita, who's a fifth grade teacher at Miller. Our representatives are in charge of choosing a community service and a school project. And this last year, they collected food, and it benefited PADS right here in Westmont. And then also this year, with the money that they had raised using the proceeds from our Mustang Mini Mart, actually they contributed some money for the mural that was being painted, or that will be painted in our library, in our media center. Also, the kids did have a school cleanup day, as you can see a couple pictures there.
a few other things that the students have been involved in with the community is the Westmount Rotary. The Rotary comes to Miller School every year and talks with the third graders. And they emphasize the importance of community service to the students and explains to them some of the good works that the club does in and around Westmont and in the region. And every student gets their own special dictionary, which they love. They start going through this right away. They start reading the dictionary, and they really learn to refine how to use it. And one of the best parts of this that they love the most is in the very last page is the longest word in the English dictionary, and they spend a great deal of time trying to pronounce it, okay, which is very difficult to do because it has 1,909 letters in it. Another thing that we do is we have guest readers come in from time to time, and we've had past mayors and first ladies of Westmont come in and talk with the kids, and they also emphasize the importance of reading. That goes along with our family reading night, which Miller will be sponsoring at Barnes & Noble, which is one of the few remaining bookstores that still exists in Oak Brook. That's going to be November 20th this year, and we have a big turnout for that. Okay.
This year it was very exciting. At the beginning of our school year, we took a walking field trip and we actually met the mayor. We were in this room. They set up a mock board meeting. As you could see, we had the progress come and cover this wonderful event. They really put a lot of work into it. The mayor and his staff really enjoyed spending time here, and they really made it meaningful. As you could see, the students were sitting where you're sitting right now, so they really got a kick out of it. Again, we're trying to instill a sense of community, and our children, this last year, we spent time at the Northern Illinois Food Bank in St. Charles. We took a field trip out there, and we worked at the food bank. Again, it was something that the kids had never done before. It's something that they would like to do again, and I plan, or my partner and I, Steve Ritz, we plan on taking our students there. It gives them a sense not only of community, but of giving back. Even though the food that we did collect over Christmas went to pads, they see another aspect of, you know, the bigger picture here. And like I said, they really had a good, they worked hard. I've never seen them work so hard in my whole life, but they really enjoyed it. On the back end of that field trip, we stopped at Klein Creek Farm, which is a working farm in West Chicago, set in the 1900s, which at the time the kids were learning about the prairie, and it fit in really well with what we were doing. So just using what we have in our community, in the county, nearby, it just makes learning that much more, you have a connection to what's going on instead of just sitting there reading a book or looking on the internet. So that was something else that we had done last year, and I'd like to do it again. Ooh, sorry, I went too far.
Oh, that's okay. Can you go? I think you can go back. Can you go back? Okay, another one of our school connections is at Miller, we started a SPRAC board this year, and SPRAC stands for Special People Performing Random Acts of Kindness. It's on the bulletin board inside the front door, and what we did was talk to the students about the importance of being kind to each other, not just anti-bullying and not being a bully or how to stop bullies, but also about being kind to each other. And the students, all the teachers were given a template of paper that kids could write a thank you to someone who did an act of kindness for them. So the students have been filling out these SPRAC forms, and so have the teachers, to say thank you to people who have been doing nice things for them during the year so far. We intend to roll this out even further during the next quarter after Bully Awareness Week and bring it around to being paying it forward, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So it goes beyond just saying thank you to someone, but also then doing an act of kindness for someone else after you've already been on the receiving end of that. So that's what our SPRAC board is about. Okay, now, this way? Okay. So during Bully Awareness Week also, to tie in with Rachel's Challenge, which is the program that we are going to be starting. the kids in the classrooms have been making posters that are going to go up in the store windows, and this is an example of one of the posters explaining about Rachel's Challenge, giving a little bit of information about it, and inviting the community to come to the event on November 19th. So hopefully we will get a good turnout. These are going to be in the windows by Saturday for the Halloween event. So when we have a lot of people in town, hopefully they will get a lot of exposure. So, and then Bully Awareness Week also, the teachers will be using the curriculum that was developed last year for the elementary level, and they will be continuing to use the strategies and a lot of the activities in there during Bully Awareness Week, and then continue throughout the year to help students understand both about anti-bullying and how to stop a bully, and tying that in with our SPRAC board and our Paying It Forward to also learn how to be kinder to each other.
This year, Miller implemented a dual language kindergarten, and the fourth grade has teamed up with the kindergarten. We're meeting with them once a week. So hopefully our fourth graders will learn Spanish. They're all excited about that. And also from the kindergartners, and also they'll learn English, hopefully. From the fourth graders, they're very excited actually to spend time with their new friends. So we're very happy that we have Ellie Garcia, who is our dual language kindergarten teacher, who's on board. Oh, there she is. So do you want to say something?
We're just very excited about this new program, and the kindergartners and the fourth graders are very happy with this, and so they get to spend time with the kindergartners. The fourth graders are sometimes giving up their recess time, so that's really nice, and they all volunteer, so it seems to be, we've met 3 times already, so they really like it. And as you can see in the pictures, they're just having fun learning. Today we did cognitive activity with the shapes, and it went along with the pumpkins activities that we have in class, so very excited about it. Thank you.
We have 100% of our fourth graders that are doing this, so that's really exciting. So they just can't get down there fast enough, and the kindergartners are peeking out of the door, waiting for their new friends to come. So it's really exciting to see. Also, we've had junior achievement come into our school. This is a gentleman that I had last year in my class. It's another way we can connect with our businesses in the community. And also, there's a lot of relevance in what he is teaching these kids. This last year, they hypothetically operated a hot dog stand, and that helped them understand the tasks that are performed by businesses to see how money comes in and goes out. So again, this is something that the kids really enjoy. Junior Achievement does a really nice job, and something we'll bring back again. So, and that is it.
Okay. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Can I ask you?
Thank you very much.
Before you leave, can I ask you a question? The students that were here, that were meeting with the mayor, can we tap into them in a few years for maybe members of the Board of Ed? I saw.
It was a lot of fun because one of the staff members came up and said, she felt that everybody needed 2 cats in their house.
Yeah.
Everyone should adopt 2 cats. I mean, it was not like real life, but the kids are sitting there, and someone said, "What if somebody likes dogs?" It was just, They really did it. We were really impressed. It was more than we ever thought would happen when we came here, and the kids really enjoyed it. So I thank the mayor and the staff. So.
Thank you.
You guys have a lot of great things going on over there. And I have to tell you, I love that SPRAC board and the Pay It Forward idea. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a card here then for public comment. Mr. Mark, if you could come up and pronounce your last name.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Heriberta, and I have a son who just started attending kindergarten at Manning. I would like to voice my opposition to the cell tower idea at Manning. Basically, for every study or claim that says there are no adverse health effects to cell towers, there is one that says there are indeed adverse health effects. Therefore, to me, the uncertainty is very clear. You cannot vote yes for this idea or this proposal and say with certainty that our children would be safe. That would be a gamble and a large burden to carry. I know the high school has a cell tower, which I too would have been against, and some feel this may have set a precedent. I'd like to dispute this precedent and point out that children with their developing bodies are likely more susceptible to adverse health effects, as some studies actually do point out. Second, the high school has more land to work with versus the small size of the land Manning sits on. So that puts children potentially closer to the towers versus the high school. And third, Manning children face up to 6 years of attending school with this tower, while those attending high school would face only 4 years, or do face 4 years. So the children would likely be closer to the tower and have exposure for 50% more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Oh, that's for John.
Yeah, John needs it.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Maria, I have two quick questions about policy that maybe someone can answer. The first one is on the new 4170, the safety. I was just curious why all of the school bus language was crossed out and not replaced with anything. So it's on the first page about halfway, well, 2/3 of the way down. I was just wondering.
I don't know exactly why, but sometimes when they do that, that section actually goes to another policy. Sometimes they move it,
Okay.
but I don't know specifically with that. We'd have to pull the,
Okay, so I don't necessarily have a problem with what is written there. I'm just curious because that stuff that was removed probably should be somewhere. So maybe we could just kind of make a note of that and. Okay, so that was one question. I have one other question on the field trips and student tours. The first full paragraph talks about analyzing factors to determine whether a trip is appropriate. And I was just thinking that in that list of factors, cost probably should be on the list. So it lists educational value, student safety, parent concerns, heightened security alerts, liability concerns. It just seems that the cost, that at least one of the factors that's analyzed should also be the cost of the trip. So, you know, how many students are going, what's the cost, is there any? So I think we should consider adding that into that list.
If it says here that the superintendent or designee, am I reading this correct, shall analyze the following factors, that's the sentence, right? And then it goes into that.
Yes, yes.
So when so in terms of adding cost, are you suggesting that the superintendent or the designee are the ones that do that?
Yes. Yes, it's
okay.
just one of this list. This is a great list of things that should be considered when there's a field, any kind of trip off of property.
where exactly is this?
So
one?
it's the first full paragraph, so right at the top of the page there.
Okay.
In the middle, it says the superintendent or designee, it's
Okay.
one of the added words. Analyze the following factors. I just think that cost should be one of the factors that's
It's just
on
an
the list.
additional consideration.
It should just be on the list of things we consider.
I don't have an issue with that.
I don't either. So you just want to insert the word cost.
Yeah.
So like after heightened security alerts,
Anywhere on the
cost,
list.
and then and liability concerns?
Okay, I don't have a problem either. Was there anything else?
Oh, not on policies. I do have one other
Okay.
question, though. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. Kim, the CEC membership, the bill that you posted there, is that the full amount, and then we're
Yes.
splitting? Okay. I just wasn't sure if that was our amount or if it was the full
No,
amount.
that's a full amount,
Okay.
and then we get a reimbursement.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything? I just had a couple of things. I was very happy to see, and again, the reason for the consent agenda is to put things in there that we can easily go through. But number one, I would like to say thank you very much to Kim Anderson for this information about the copier contract and the fact that we will now have a 26% reduction in cost, which building administrators will be able to relocate to other needs in their buildings. That's fantastic. So thank you for that. Then, again, happy to see that our district is still sponsoring and working with the Operation Snowball Retreat. I've actually had somebody in the last couple of months tell me that they've heard about the fact that our district does that, and they kind of wish theirs did too. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kevin, you and I had talked about this today, and I was hoping if you could talk about it a little bit. One of the items is the intergovernmental agreement with COD. So could you just briefly talk about that? It's another really great thing. So.
Right. With this agreement, what we're going to be able to do with the College of DuPage, our students as juniors will have the opportunity to take their entrance exam, and then they'll be able to, then COD will be able to share that data with our high school, and then in turn, we can kind of take a look at how our students are performing in their junior year, and then make any changes we need to their preparation so that when they exit as seniors, they'll be able to perform very well on those types of assessments.
Is it exclusively focused on math, or are there other components as well?
I believe right now the focus is math, but there is that opportunity to expand it once we get that started.
And this is new, because I don't recall seeing this
Right.
before. And this is something that was proposed by our district?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
That's nice, especially, you know, to also expose our students to a school that they potentially might go to. I thought it was excellent. Okay, so I just wanted to mention those three things, because I thought they were all very good. Okay, anything else then on that consent agenda? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, and that amendment is the change in the policy number. Okay, number 1, personnel recommendations. 2, approval of student tour. 3, adoption of board policies. 4, approval of consortium for educational change membership. 5, approval of intergovernmental agreement. 6, approval of textbook adoption request. 7, review and award of copier lease. 8, approval of AFR shared services or outsourcing requirement report. 9, resolution to abate working cash funds. 10, approval of October 2013 expenditure report. And 11, ratification of September 2013 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McKay.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. Okay, then the first item for discussion is presentation of monthly financial statements. Mrs. Anderson?
You actually have 2 months in front of you this time. We're getting caught up from when we had the one board meeting over the summer. So for the month of August, we received 1 installment of property taxes that month. Again, the district was behind in receiving revenue from the state. And so not much new for the month of August. In the month of September, the district received 2 large installments of the 2012 tax levy, which amounted to about $9.4 million with an overall collection rate of 95.6% year-to-date. That is slightly higher than the percentage received by that time over the last 3 years. And the education funds, revenues are slightly higher than the prior year. The state, we're starting to see that the state is behind in payments again. We still are due $15,500 for last fiscal year and about $207,000 for this fiscal year. And basically they have not, as of September 30th, had not sent us the first quarter categorical payments. So that's the same with the transportation fund. We're waiting for our first payment of transportation funds. And then in the expenditures, again, we're running really basically as we anticipate at this time of year. What happens in some of the funds based on the receipt of payments at or invoices at the start of the fiscal year, some funds may be a little bit higher or lower than they were during the prior year. Let's see, and then you've got the investments in front of you, and you've noticed we've started with the large tax payments. We did deposit quite a bit of money in PMA and different types of investments there. Fund balance report is there, as well as the student activity report. And then you also have your first lunch report this month, and again, some of the differences from one year to the next are a result of when we receive payments from the state, as well as when we have expenditures. So one of the questions I received was our expenditures as of September were significantly higher than they were September the year before. And it's just a matter of the timing of receipt of invoices from our vendors. So right now, our overall, we operate at a deficit, and that is a little bit higher than it was last year, but I expect it to start to even out a little bit as time goes on. Does anybody have any questions?
Our investment rate is a whopping .150, right?
Yeah, on some of those investments, and we do have some money at Clarendon Hills Bank, and we're receiving between 0.2 and 0.3% on that, but you can find maybe a little bit better rate going out a year, but those rates are just now starting to pick up. So yeah, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And, yeah, okay, well, that's all. Okay. Then the next, okay, is that it?
Yeah, that's all.
Any other questions? Okay. The next item on the agenda, the Westmont Junior High School update, please.
Thanks for being patient, everybody. So good evening. So first of all, before I get in trouble from my secretary, I want to state out loud that the parent-teacher conferences, we're changing the setup of the parent-teacher conferences. The notifications are going to be sent out tomorrow by hand, and it's going to be out on ParentLink. It's going to be out on our blog also. We're mirroring what the high school does, and this is something, the feedback that we've gotten from the parents that they wanted us to go towards. So we've been listening, and of a few other things as well, but the information along with the instructions and how to do so, because we know it's the first time for some of our parents, that will be out coming home tomorrow. And then on the blog, there's some extra directions that are available, more detailed directions for those that need the details too, okay? So what we wanted to do tonight is talk about some of the great things that are going on at the junior high. And although I'm a very handsome, good-looking guy, I figure instead of looking at me read to you some of these great things that are going on, we're going to share some pictures so you can be seeing some of the pictures that are coming up. They're in no significant order. They're just something to look at as you're hearing my wondrous voice. So we decided to go with the top 10 things that make Westmont Junior High School 2013-14 greater than in the past. Number 10 is the curriculum map development and the teacher collaboration that is across the disciplines. Some examples of this are specifically the 8th grade team, the literacy teachers, social studies teachers. They're coming together. They have common personal plan time, and they're using this to go with an interdisciplinary approach, which is something that is the whole philosophy of middle schools. There's also math happening in PE classes. They're doing math problems. They need to, if you've ever seen anything like Big Brother before, not saying I'm an advocate of the show, but there's a whole bunch of challenges with different reality TV shows. And so students had to solve a math problem and then go put a puzzle, get pieces of puzzle to bring back and do different team activities, all the while exerting themselves mentally and physically. We have number 9, we have a stellar faculty, and they are presenting at conferences and teaching graduate level courses throughout the state, some multiple graduate level courses. Number 8, We have engaging instructional activities with increased rigor. We have CRIS strategies, Project CRIS strategies that are being more and more incorporated into the classroom. We should know we're seeing it. We're seeing this throughout all of the disciplines. We're seeing debates happen in classes. Skits are going on as well. Infomercials are being formed and created by students. We're seeing mock trials occurring in classrooms and in normal classrooms and in e-periods as well. And then there's new classes that have come to the fold, like our Spanish class and our Intertech class, other things as well. Number 7, our PTO rocks. So our PTO is strong. It's the largest middle school / junior high PTO that I've ever seen. There's a lot of passion there. They're doing some fantastic things, some of which you might see some pictures of the walkathon that's going on. There's restaurant nights going on as well. And people are really coming together. Communication's getting better and better as we go on. We just had a marathon night last night talking about all the great stuff going on. Number 6. Number 6 is our increased communication. Now, not only are we going to have the new website, which I know is going to be unveiled soon, but we also have our Facebook site. We're trying to put more and more on there between parent links that are going out, the calendar that's on the website, the blog that's on the website, just talking to our students. Instead of having the announcements, which were originally taking place in the morning and taking away from instructional time, we do have a period of time when everybody's eating, that the announcements are going out during lunchtime. And that's proven to be a very positive thing. Number 5, we've got reading and math booster intervention classes, and these are even more tailored to the individual student's needs than ever before. These happen and they can be switched off in 3 to 6 week increments. So depending on what the student's needs are, if some type of intervention is not working, we have other ways to go as well. We're doing a trial we've worked out with Alex, which is a math program. We're incorporating fast math into it as well, and then some other things, as well as reading Sword to Success and some other reading strategies, reading intervention classes. We've got number 4, increased technology integration into the classrooms and the curriculum. You might have remembered when I said that instead of purchasing approximately 130 social studies books for the 7th grade social studies classes, instead of making that purchase, we decided to take that money and put that into Chromebooks, a classroom set of Chromebooks. And so those are being used into the classroom. On top of that, we have the PTO is working with us to pilot something that's called Mimios. Mimios are a different type of smart technology. It's like an interactive whiteboard, like smart technology, with some pros and cons to it, but they're at 1/3 at the price of a smart board. And so we can get more into the classroom. So we're starting a pilot with that. As I've said before, we've got Intertech, which is all about writing code, and we're doing more and more with code.org. We're going to be celebrating 1 million students on code, and that's coming up in a week of December. So some pretty exciting things as far as technology integration. On top of that, we have a new media specialist, Sheila Rue, who's getting into more classes, working with teachers, not only modeling, but then co-teaching and watching the teachers as they're about to fly. You might see that she's already done some professional development at our last faculty meeting, dealing with the SAMR model, which is spelled SAMR. You can look a little bit more about how we want to integrate technology and make it just flow into the classroom. So number 3 is real-world learning activities. Some of you might have got the invitation that not only are students researching about different types of fuels for vehicles, but we had a car show. Mrs. Goodell contacted a whole bunch of car dealerships, and then our own Mrs. Meyer, a 6th grade math teacher, because she has a Chevy Volt. So she brought that out, and we had other cars out there. Students got an opportunity to get inside. I was a little nervous, I got to be honest. They got inside the cars. They were sitting in the trunk, sitting in the seats. The vehicles were being turned on. As long as they didn't throw it into gear, we were safe, right? We had some visitors come out for that as well, so that was fantastic. But the idea is that the real world's coming into the classroom, and then we're also going out into the real world. Number 2, there's an emphasis on our 3 school goals, so improving student growth, improving student climate, and improving student attendance. And so not only do we have an emphasis on what our school goals are, but we're taking those goals, we're breaking them down, and how are the teams addressing, the grade level teams, and then the Explo PE team, how are they addressing those school goals? And then on top of it, the students are looking at it, and how are they addressing it as well? So the goals are coming all the way down to the students. It's pretty exciting. You might have heard about our Roar, that we've adopted the Katy Perry Roar song, and we had a little bit of a kickoff. I won't show you what the video that we had from curriculum night, but we had some time. We had a good time, and the Panther sitting over here to my right, she had a great time donning the mask. So Roar has definitely taken advantage. If you see our I shouldn't say taking advantage, but it's really taken a flow into our school and how we're doing things, how we're operating. So ROAR is responsibility, and then opportunity, attitude, and respect, and we're going towards that. Our E period, number 1 is our E period. And that's how we start each day. And depending on if a student needs that extra, the reteaching going on, which is in our interventions, or whether they need some sort of enrichment, we have things like mock trials, Intro to Spanish 1 and 2, juggling, Rube Goldberg, NCIS, yoga, football, bugs, Lizard King, beads, in which we have, hopefully I don't mess up the last name here, but CUSD 201's very own Jackie Michelon, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jackie, if you're watching. I'm sure she is. All the retired teachers are watching. But Jackie's come out and helped our students and helped Nancy Bartos, Miss Bartos, in creating these necklaces. And then not only are they created, they're being showcased, and then they're going to be sold. And then the proceeds from that are going to go towards Matea's Joy, which is just a non-for-profit to help those that are in need. So students are seeing that there's a lot of different things that they can take those skills in the real world coming in. Now, I said that there were only 10 things, but the honest truth is that there's so many other things, and so I've got to mention it. The clubs and sports, Early Act, what they're doing, they're continuously serving our community. The social emotional standards which we're hitting hard, which Peggy was talking about, as far as Rachel's Challenge and what the climate's brought. We also have our social worker getting into classes more in the Excel periods. There's field trips going on for math competitions that are going to be happening soon, and whether it's Montini, hopefully. Lord of the Flies, there's going to be a show that some of our students are going to go see in downtown Chicago later on, once we get approval for that. Detective Weibler, who is our student resource officer, he's really just hit it out of the park this year. He's more involved than I've ever seen him. He's working his tail off. And so we're really proud of everything he's done for us, along with Jim Schlicker and the ALICE program, Sergeant Schlicker, I'm sorry, and the ALICE program. This last Thursday, a week ago, just this last Thursday on the 17th, we had our ALICE program in which we evacuated to our site. We had approximately 15 to 20 individuals from different police departments and different school districts watching what we were doing and have a debrief. And so we were able to share some of the experiences that we've had as administrators and as faculty members and the police department. So we're being highlighted. And so I appreciate all the things that Westmount Police Department and the fire department are doing for us as well, and supporting us and keeping us safe. The community members like Bob Fleck, who comes out on a regular basis and talks to students about the ponds. We have a gentleman named Darnell who came out from Boys to Men and talked to Miss Bartos' class about what it means to be a young man and be a respectful young man. A lot of things to look at there. We've got an English as a second language, an ESL literacy block, which we have not had in the past. So a good chunk of time for our students that have those needs. Wow, what do we have? We've got a lot. Our science department at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they have been on the forefront. Illinois has not adopted the next generation science standards yet, which is basically the science department's answer to what the Common Core has brought to us for math and English language arts. But they've been on the forefront of it. They're leading the charge in a lot of different ways, and they're becoming more and more ready to take on that challenge and to make that part of their curriculum. Last year, they had a roundtable and had a whole bunch of teachers, faculty from around the surrounding area in DuPage, and they were talking about just that very thing. So they're going to be prepared when that comes out from ISB.net. ISB, sorry. I've gone to the website a couple of times. We have increased social work opportunities through 360 and other community. And then math and science just met along with Ms. Quattrone today, and they're talking about what they're going to be doing and that how we've integrated the Common Core curriculum into the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, what it means for elementary, and then what the approach that the high school is going to be taking as well. So just some very exciting things that are going on right now, and I just wanted to share with you. And did you have any questions for me? I remember we only have so much time.
Sounds like you guys are doing a lot, like it's changed, like the whole climate's changing over there, John. That sounds wonderful.
Well, it's a team effort, and we're having a lot of fun. Thank you for saying so. And really, one of the things I want to mention is we are constantly looking for feedback, whether that's from teachers or our students, and we've been listening to our parents. And one of the things that we changed this year is how we're doing parent-teacher conferences, how we're going to be doing it now and then later on in the spring. And so you'll be able to sign up. Also, they were asking us to have a Facebook presence, and we have a Facebook presence at this time. We're trying to keep that lively as well. We've incorporated supervision in the morning to have additional supervision, thanks to the district and the Board of Education. And then curriculum night, people were asking if we would change the format of that so that they'd be able to see more. And even from the change we've made this year to curriculum night, there's been a recommendation for the future as well. And so we're gonna tweak it a little bit more. So I think we're going in a great direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the agenda, there is an item on here that I had asked Kevin to look into, and it was about the junior high bus schedule in the morning and all of that. So this memo went out very late this afternoon, so I don't know if any of the board members have had a chance to look at it. If we want to talk about this at a future meeting, we can certainly do that, unless anyone has any specific questions. Now, and the sum and substance of it really was basically with the time that the students arrive at the school to when their school day actually starts. So this was an item that I had just asked to have brought to the board. If anyone has a question now, or we can talk about it now and then when people have had a chance to look, or maybe there's some questions.
Well, the only thing I would say right off the top when I look at this is I can see that we talked about adding programming for students and some of the costs and some of the difficulties that would be with that. And we talk about bus issues, but I'm not seeing any costs here for the bus issues. So I definitely would like to at least know a dollar figure, what it would cost. I don't even know how many routes it would be. Is it 2 routes? Is it 10 routes? I don't know. So I'd at least like to have that piece of information before I comment any more on it. Sure.
And just so we know what we're talking about, the issue is that the junior high buses, and thank you very much for opening the doors earlier for the students who, when they get to the school, can get in the school. But the concern has been, and I know I've fielded a number of questions as to the fact that the students get to the school 7:35, 7:45, whatever, and then it's 8:20 before classroom time starts. So that's where all this was coming. So, Gary, I'm glad you brought that up. I have that same question. So if part of the reason for these timeframes is definitely a bus time, I would like to see what it is, because apparently, and Kevin, let me know this. So what happens is the buses for the junior high then go and pick up the elementary students.
Correct.
Okay. So the question is then what would the cost of adding buses, just to have a conversation about this topic? It would be interesting to see what that cost would be. And then while I'm at it, just the other thing was in terms of, one of the suggestions here would be to maybe add some kind of programming for students. And there is a cost there for us in the memo. The only thing I have a question about is, one of the things that would be maybe tutoring or homework help. And correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the time in Excel, I keep forgetting the E, Excel is to assist with homework or such.
It can be used for that,
Yes.
There's a lot of things that are meant for Excel, but that is one of them.
Okay. So that was just a question I had in terms of like what is in front of us. So
I guess I have a question. Is it all buses? Is it buses north of the tracks? Are we talking about just a couple of?
John, I'm sorry to put you on the spot,
I think-
but
That's okay.
I was gonna say too, I think because at least our bus, the bus is not usually on time. It's running late and then.
Sure,
would
so
hate-
I didn't want to talk over
go
you, I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mara. The buses, depending, and once again, we're talking about a different time with the tracks being closed right now, but typically, anywhere from, we have drop-offs, anywhere from 7:34 to 7:44, and that's all buses pretty much being dropped off by approximately 7:45. So anywhere from 7:34 to 7:45, the buses have unloaded. Not, and you got to keep in mind the crossing right now, so this is a little unreliable.
all your routes are.
Are complete and dropped off, all
by
students, we have
7:45.
six buses, and they're all dropped off by 7:45 normally.
And so, again, thank you for having the doors open, since some of those kids were getting there before the doors were open, and,
We make them sing and bang on the door saying, "I want to learn," so it's no problem.
oh, I want to go.
How's that working out for you, John?
Especially when it's cold, they want to.
Well,
So do all 6 of those buses that go to the junior high, are they then disbanded and sent to the elementary? Are all 6 of those buses sent to elementary routes, or are 3 of the 6, do you know, or?
Don't know that. I can check.
Because it says in here that Westway doesn't have the manpower to accommodate the request anyway. So the cost is moot, isn't it?
Well, it probably, we'd have to have a conversation with Westway, but, when they contract with the district, they contracted with us this is how we, because the way that we didn't change anything with our routing when we went with a new provider. We
Right.
said, this is how we run our routes, this is the service you have to provide for us. So they do their staffing and purchasing of equipment based upon our needs in other districts. I always say that anything is possible, right, if you're willing to write the check for it. So right now, their response is based upon how they're currently structured, they're not staffed correctly for that. Now, if it's something that we wanted to pursue with them and change this, then they would then in turn need to go out and hire additional drivers, possibly additional buses.
Right.
I don't know what their inventory with buses is. And all those costs then obviously trickle down. So that does get into what would be the cost of providing that additional service.
and again, I had noticed that on there. The question was, I have been approached by a number of families asking, when the new school year started in this new junior high schedule, that I guess people had assumptions that are correct or not correct, that time, that 45 minutes or so in the morning of, I don't want to say dead time, but where the children are not in classrooms. So the question is, what is the, I don't know, I guess, what's the reason for, like, what is the point of having that? And so, and I do know that the students are supervised, that they're in groups, being supervised. I guess my initial question, I guess, again to Kevin, and then, which is why I brought it to the board, was none of our other district schools do that. just the junior high. So if the question, I guess the question was, do these buses then, are they, is it a busing issue? And so the question is, if the board is, if we know what the costs are, if we're comfortable with that, if we're not,
And, Marie, I guess I would have to say, since this just seems to be the way it is, timing-wise with the buses and everything, I really probably would lean more towards programming for students and what are our options there to provide additional instruction, additional enrichment opportunities during that time frame, rather than spend money on transportation. I'd rather spend it in the classroom or for student experiences. So that's my thought right off the bat, just kind of initially.
And I agree with what Joel has just said. I completely agree that the money will be better spent in the classroom, and I'm not sure how that would look because kids are coming in that entire time. Not all of the kids are in the classroom, or, at the school at 7:40 or 7:30 or 7:45. There's kids that are walking in there at 10 after 8.
exactly.
Mine's one of them.
But
So,
from buses or no?
No, just in general.
Just dropping off and that sort of
Right,
thing,
but
right?
you couldn't create another full-blown course, the first course of the day, beginning at 7:45. You couldn't do it.
Right.
It has to be some kind of enrichment, whether it's homework help or an enrichment program. It's got to be structured in such a way that it's not mandated because the kids not all of the kids will be there at that time.
Correct. And that is, again, why I am asking for this exact thing, to have this conversation as to,
I guess
what time, right now they sit in like the gym from 8 to 8:20, and then they're just sitting there. And they're supervised, but the question is there something that we can be doing for them that is beneficial?
And I would also think maybe there might be some opportunities, instead of having all your clubs and things after school, maybe clubs before school. This is something, and so you wouldn't have maybe an hour once a week for a club after school, but you might have 2 days of a club in the morning. If they're there, anyhow, you might be able to do
Some of them
some
are.
things like that.
Some of them are. I know just cross-country was. So there are some and such. To me, it was just the question of having a discussion. Since we're doing so many great things at the junior high, there's just this potential of 45 minutes a day that they're really not doing anything. And none of the other schools are doing that.
It's a time we really could take advantage of, I think.
Yes.
If we do it right.
Okay,
Thought
so
real well.
we have some questions, and then,
Right.
so would it be all right if we move this to another day then, to have any discussions on that?
Yeah, real quick, I love the idea of an optional enrichment program being available. The other thing is, I think optional is a big part of it, and kid could do it one day and not the next, things like that. Something I really underestimated is several years ago, when the junior high was having a number of behavior issues. They're having trouble with kids on the buses, they're having trouble with kids in the school, things like that. They kind of did a lockdown, and they started, they did assigned seating at lunch. And a lot of people were kind of like, hey, this is the kids' only social time during the school year, during the day and stuff like that. And I kind of, myself, my kid was in junior high at the time, and I kind of said, it's lunch, how big a deal is it? It was a big deal. It was a very big deal to lose that social time with people. So I think the availability of that time in the morning is actually something that shouldn't be underestimated. I think that can be good for the kids that want to do that or have enrichment also.
Yeah.
And I'd also just like to say too, having, I know that just from what I hear, it's better that they can get there early enough and they have time to put their stuff away and feel a little bit more relaxed instead of like
Rushing.
coming from the south side of the tracks, just going to Manning, getting there, and they were just on time or even late sometimes, and then feeling rushed. So I know I've heard that time, like Matt was saying, is good because it's more of a getting into the day rather than having to be already starting out stressed out because you're late. So something to consider. And I also think the tracks, as the day goes on, in the morning, it gets busier. So I think that might be something to consider. There are more trains going by after,
7.
especially right at the 7:30 time. So might be something to take into consideration too, if thinking about changing it.
So, I guess if we can look at some optional things for the students, whether they, as opposed to busing, is that?
I think that's, personally, I think that's the better way to go.
Okay.
I don't know that I would change the busing, I think probably if there was something that they could offer at the school for that time.
Okay.
And I agree with what Mara and Matt had said, that social component is important to the kids, and I know how I am. I need time to rest when I wake up, and when I don't want to charge in, and immediately have to knuckle down. You need a couple minutes to sort of get yourself set. So it's important.
I guess I'll just quickly mention, let's not create a problem where we're getting everybody to school by 7:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Because if there's enrichment programs there, I want
right.
my child to be there. My
Right.
child's not a bus child, so I'm going to bring my child now at 7:45.
Right.
Instead of 8 o'clock. And now the school is dealing with all the children a full half hour or 45 minutes earlier than
Right.
they normally would have been.
I know math, the math club, it's every Thursday morning or every other week, I think, on Thursday morning. But the kids can get there at any time. They don't have to be there at 7:45. Whenever they show up, they can just jump in and, ask their questions. I like the format of that. I mean, it's a great format. It's an option for the kids. I wish they were doing it 5 days a week, honestly. But I like the format. And, she's not rushed. If she decides she wants to go in there for a little extra help, she's not rushed to do it. And, they can go in at will. So I do like that format. I think it's good for them. And, what I find most interesting is that they almost make the decision themselves. I'm not forcing that, So I think if those options were out there, a lot of kids would take advantage of it.
Okay, great, then we'll
Good.
have a conversation about this, and we can look
Sure.
at what
Sure.
other programming there might be available.
And just to say one more time, it's been a couple of years, there were a lot of concerns about kids standing out front, and I just want to say personally, thank you very much for making sure that kids are not standing out front for any period of time. Once the buses get there, I know that there are a lot of people over the years that have given that feedback, and they'll be very happy to hear that that's finally been heard, because it's been asked for quite some time. And
We couldn't do it without the district.
just thank you very much. So it's one more thing we can check off that has been a concern for parents, and just really appreciate it.
I will ditto that, so. Okay, then the next item, there is a request, because we have this fantastic Rachel's Challenge program on the night of November 19th, and I know there's, chuckling going on here in the room, because that's also a board meeting night. So the question has come up, what can we do so that we as board members can, because, we love nothing better than to be here at board meetings, but, so the questions come up, what can we do? So that's up on it for discussion. If we can make a change, and I know that there are some things that Kim has for us that there's a reason why we have meetings when we do and stuff. So if we can kind of open this up to a discussion, because I know many of us, especially a couple people here on this side of the room, have been really, really in working with the climate committee, and to see something like this come to fruition is probably a really good thing.
Yeah, and, I think it's really a great opportunity for us as a whole board. If it is on our board night, I mean, we're going to have plans to attend something anyway, that if we're able to either reschedule the board meeting for another night, or if we are able to, have our meeting at a different location or something, just, so that we could all attend. I think it would be a great show of support for the program, and it is the community event in the evening, so it'd be nice if the board was there. So one of my thoughts was, to reschedule the meeting, or if it's possible for that meeting to hold it at the high school in the commons or something, because I know the auditorium would be used. But, we could set it to perform the necessary functions that we need to do as a board, but still attend the event. So.
Can I ask a question? Do we know how long the event
The
is?
community event is 1 hour.
1 hour.
Yes.
And it starts at 7?
Yes, it does.
So one of the suggestions might be to have an 8 o'clock board meeting? Or do we want to talk about,
Do we have
Trying another
things
day.
already scheduled for November 19th that are time sensitive?
The only thing
Yes,
that
we do.
would be time sensitive would be the tentative levy. Just because of the timing of it, that has to occur so many days prior to your levy hearing, which is in December. And so that's why, we need to have that second board meeting in November. But there is a little wiggle room if you want to move off the 19th.
what about the Tuesdays around it?
Can we, wait, let's talk about doing it that night first.
Because I would very much like to attend Rachel's challenge, but if we could have maybe an abbreviated board meeting and knock out the things that
Not
are
add another
time
night.
sensitive.
Yeah.
Okay.
The critical things.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was, I guess, that's where we're kind of going, to see if people wanted to talk about a different date pursuant to what
keep
we
it
need
on
to
the
do, or just,
19th.
or to keep it on the 19th.
I would
And
I would like to do that.
I would be
Okay.
concerned about setting it right at 8 o'clock in case that
Ish.
kickoff goes long, so I would suggest that we better make sure we have
Where,
enough wiggle
where
room
is
to.
it in the auditorium? It's in the auditorium, okay, so,
Can I suggest 6 o'clock if we're going to have an abbreviated board meeting?
Oh, do the board meeting at 6
Yeah.
and then go into Rachel's?
Did I-
I'm fine with
I
that.
would like that.
Yep.
that sounds great.
I mean, we have enough lead time that we can communicate a change
Right.
in time.
Because at the end of the presentation, I'm sure we would also
Then
like
we
to
could
talk
go-
to community members.
exactly.
and other
Yeah,
Well,
I
no,
think
then
that's
we
a
can
great
invite them all
idea.
to the board. No. Does that sound like a plan, 6
Yeah.
o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll check and see if we can have it.
Yep.
Thank you, Joel.
Mhm.
That was Joel.
I think that's a good plan.
Okay, that's good, then we don't have to worry about any other dates. Okay,
Could just ask one more quick question about Rachel's program. There's going to be 2 presentations earlier in the day, 8 o'clock and 9:30. Do I have my times correctly?
It's 8 o'clock for the high school, and then they both take place at the high school auditorium, so 8 o'clock and approximately 9:25 start. It should be 9:25 start for the junior high over at the high school. as well.
Okay, so there's 2 presentations. The high school presentation for the high schoolers is going to start at 8 o'clock.
And it'll be over at 9.
And then the junior high is going to be 9:20. Okay.
Correct.
and that's for the students,
Yes.
directed at the students.
There will be some professional development that is going to be provided on November 5th for the entire CUSD 201 faculty during Institute Day, and that's a 3-hour long over at the high school.
Okay, great.
But if a board member wanted to attend one of those events in the morning, he could, right?
I'm
He or
pretty
she
sure
could.
that you're my boss, so
Great. Okay, thank you again for that, Joel. That was really good. Okay, the next item on the agenda is, it's an action item, but first, it certainly can have discussion. So, again, I had asked to have this put on because I was hearing from people and getting calls about whether, after the discussion that we had before about the cell tower partnership, there was some discussion about whether we should look into additional issues. So, again, I've been approached by people that wanted to have a discussion to see whether we should consider investigating this and spending any more district time looking at it. So I guess, so we'll open it up for discussion and then we can have a vote. And again, the vote is not whether to install the towers at this point. Right now, it's just the discussion as to whether we will investigate that further. So
Can I ask a quick
open it up for a
question?
question. Yes.
I thought after the last meeting, we were going to be maybe getting some additional information or links or something.
That's why I'm saying this, because I know I asked for information to be provided, but in the meantime, I was getting phone calls from board members asking, before we spend any time, could we see if people want to go further? That's where we're at. So, because again, in terms of spending district time and money, do we want to do that based on people's concerns? And, I know we are all receiving emails and such. So just to ask that question out loud, whether we want to. So so we can vote on that, but first we can have a discussion.
Well, I have to apologize because we were asked the question at the last board meeting. You asked the question, do we have everybody's agreement that we want to look at more information? And initially, I said, yep, but after some thought, I don't really need to see any additional information. So me personally, it's my mindset that I don't need Kevin to dig up studies or AT&T to dig up studies. I don't need to see any of that. So I have to apologize because you asked the question at the board table and I said yes, and then I changed my mind, so.
Well, and I guess that's your prerogative, and, that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of what we have in front of us.
Which is nothing.
Which is.
I'm sorry, but I just.
Okay. What's in front of us is that at the meeting that there was representatives here from AT&T. So before we continue to investigate, we're seeking direction from the board as to whether the school district should proceed with this matter. So we can have a discussion as to what we've had in front of us and whether we want to go, if we want to continue or not. That's the discussion. And then we vote.
I'm with Mary Kay. I'm ready to vote on it tonight.
And so am I. I'm ready to, I don't want to hear any more about it. I'm not for it. So.
Well, I would have to say that I am for hearing more about it because I do think there are options. Personally, I'd like to see maybe the location change on it if that's possible so that it is better to look at, I guess, than the side of the building that it was going on. But I mean, if there's not enough interest to pursue it, there's no reason to ask that question. But I really, personally, I know there's controversy about these sorts of things. I know we've had controversy about this particular topic in our district in the past. Realistically, I can't, or I don't feel that there's enough effect at the level of radiation that comes from these towers, and it's not really the type of radiation that causes damage to DNA. I know some people will disagree with that, but it's a reality of our world, and we all probably, I can't really hand my kid a cell phone and say, here, use this, and then not support the technology behind it. So I would be interested in learning more. I'm not saying I'm totally in that camp, but I think I wouldn't rule it out. And the other issue with it that I see is that there are very few opportunities for school districts to have other revenue sources. And one thing we are always asked, whenever budgets are tight, is what are you doing to raise extra money? Where are you going to, we got to get money, from other ways and other sources and this, that, and the other thing. And there are very few opportunities that come along. So I think when one does come along, I think it warrants us taking time to look it over. So that's my thought on it.
For myself, I got a large amount of feedback. I mean, I kind of put some feelers out to both school parents, community members, things like that, and just looking for general feedback. I did get a lot of research back myself. The biggest thing I look at is I say, at the end of the day, when I have two pieces of conflicting research on the topic, how do I know which one has any more credence than the other? So no matter what I would ask for here, how would I say, yes, this is more valid than that kind of thing. At the end of the day, I don't feel qualified to make that call to say, yes, they affect us or no, they don't. And clearly, there isn't a definitive answer out there. So that being the case, I look at what is public opinion, what do people think, and I do get a mix. I mean, overwhelmingly, it was health concern, and almost everyone that came forward with a health concern said, I don't know that this is a health concern. Well, I don't know that it is a health problem, but it is a concern. And they said, until we know. A couple people pointed out, and I don't know the validity behind these numbers because I didn't research this part, but they said, it took, 40 years to show that asbestos was harmful. And there's different things like that. So how long is it really going to take until we know one way or another definitively? So that being the case, and the argument for, of course, was naturally funding. Some people actually said, well, you should talk about maybe doing more towers. They have multiple towers on their properties, things like that, businesses, great revenue source. And I totally agree with Joel. I said, I can't discount as a board member and as, a spending body of tax dollars, the fact that the money's coming in. But given the overwhelming response against, and given the fact that I don't think whatever information I get or research I get is going to kind of be still, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go with public opinion, and the majority of what I was hearing was against. So.
I was just expecting some additional information, and I think Joel kind of pointed out, are there options? We have, space on either end across the street. I mean, I just don't feel like we've considered options. We looked at one item, one layout that they provided. We've never considered anything different. We've not looked at any reports for or against. Generally speaking, the feedback that everybody's getting is, I don't know, so I don't want it. I guess I was just expecting a little more information before I needed to have an opinion on this. And maybe different options as well. They do this for a living. There are different options for how to set things up and where they're located and that type of thing. And that's kind of where I'm at.
In my mind, the safety is a big factor, obviously. But I also think we don't have the space where it was presented. We talked about putting it in the front of the school. That can't happen. Is it any easier to put it across the street? I don't know. They talked about putting it on the roof. I think it would be an eyesore. It's 10 by 18 surrounded by brick. It's huge. It's 100 feet up. And when you're 3 feet tall, looking up at a 100-foot flagpole, it's massive. There's a litany of reasons I don't want it. Safety is only one of them.
And I will, the one thing that I thought of as, they did say, yeah, you couldn't put it around there and have the electrical
box
there. But, if you were seriously considering it, in light of the type of addition that's being considered and the work that's gone into the architectural drawings, is it possible to work that into the front of the building where it wouldn't be so obvious, and then you would have the flagpole in the front of the building? That was one option that I thought of, is just moving the entire thing and camouflaging it in the front, and that would be something that you'd have to pursue and ask, like Steve Cashman or something, to get some opinion on. Is there a reasonable way to do that? So I think it could possibly go somewhere else than where it was initially proposed.
Okay, I'll just weigh in then too. My thoughts were basically, and I know I did speak up at the meeting as well last time, and if I think about what our job is as a school board and administrators and teachers, is to enhance the educational experiences of our students. And I'm also one of the first people to look for funding sources. But this one, it just doesn't sit well, because it's not so much, I don't know how to say this, but it's almost like it doesn't add to our experiences of our our educational experiences of our students. It's also interesting, and I heard somebody say that it would be absolutely great for the village and those of us that have cell phones to have more cell coverage, but we can't talk on our cell phones around the schools. So, and I thank that person for saying that. So I guess the question is also, what we had in front of us that day was the people who want to put this in to our facility, and it's because it's the best place for them to put it in. And so I appreciate that being brought to us. I would hate to not have things brought to the board that we don't have an opportunity to speak to. But I guess I'd have to say, first of all, we have been receiving information from people weighing in on their opinions. But as far as I'm concerned, I just would have to say very strongly that as long as there are, and I know this has been, as long as there are risks, why do we want to take them for something that doesn't really help us? You know, if we find out years from now that smart boards are giving something to our children, then we might want to think about getting them out of the rooms or something. But this is not something that we went out to look for. This was somebody, and I don't mean this in a bad way, people that are trying to sell something to us because they need it, and the village needs it. And with all due respect, I had a phone call drop today twice because of that. So I'm all for technology. But as far as I'm concerned, there's just, and I did spend some time doing some research, that as long as there is a threat, the last thing I'd want to do is have it in a spot that many of our children in that school go by 2 times a day. And it sounded like, so from my position as the chair, I was hearing from people, can we just, I don't need to have any more information. I want to just vote. So that's why I asked to have it put on here. So, but my own personal opinion is that we only, over all of the other things aside, for me, it's a safety issue. It's truly a safety issue. And as long as we don't really know about these things, exposing our youngest children to that is of paramount importance to me. So we'll take the vote in a second, but did anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. Then the action item, the chair will entertain a motion to consider whether the school district should continue to investigate the installation of a cell tower at Manning Elementary School as presented. And roll call, please.
Ms. Caparelli?
No.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
No.
Mrs. Notbush?
No.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
No.
Mr. Armstrong?
No.
Okay, so there are 5 noes. Okay. Thank you. Now, for something that's much better, we have the, on the agenda is the approval of the superintendent's contract. I have something to say afterwards, but does anybody, should we take the vote first and then talk? Yes. Does that sound good? Okay. Then, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the contract of Superintendent Kevin Carey for the period of July 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2017 as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Okay, first of all. Okay, I have a statement that I would like to read, and then certainly open it up to the board for comments. And so then there will be a press release going out tomorrow that Kevin will help me put together. Tonight, the CUSD 201 Board of Education has unanimously voted to renew the contract of Superintendent Kevin Carey, who has provided solid leadership for CUSD 201 since April 2011. The board is pleased to announce that Mr. Carey will continue to serve as the superintendent for another 4 years. The renewal of Mr. Carey's contract is in recognition of the exemplary job that he has done leading our district, always keeping student achievement in the main focus in all decisions. The board has full confidence in the leadership team that Superintendent Carey has put in place. They are guiding our district to greater success across multiple areas. Mr. Carey has created our vision of small giants. The committees he formed, finance, climate, strategic planning, and facilities have helped give the district the future direction we need. Superintendent Carey's expertise has resulted in District 201 achieving balanced budgets while simultaneously providing new and innovative instructional opportunities for our students. The board is extremely pleased with that accomplishment. The district has also been focusing on the sustainability and safety of our facilities. Under Mr. Carey's direction, we continue to address facility needs with student achievement and student experience as the main focus in these areas. Another achievement of Mr. Carey has been to make significant improvement to the overall climate in our school buildings and throughout our entire school community. He is creating a more positive and supportive school environment where teaching and learning thrives. The board, following thorough reviews, has determined that Superintendent Carey has met the performance-based goals set forth in his initial contract, and we are very pleased to enter into another multi-year contract with Mr. Carey, who will continue to serve as superintendent through 2017.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. Really happy, Kevin.
I should say at least through 2017.
And beyond.
And beyond. All right. So you haven't left anywhere, but welcome.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now that will go right into the superintendent's report.
With regards to the EBER process, we're in the process now of putting together some focus groups to look at these different areas. And so later on, I'll circulate, if board members would like to be a part of any of these groups, I'll pass around a sign-up sheet that you can sign up for. We'll make sure that we include you in the process. Kim Anderson, our business manager, is in the process of pulling together all the financial information each of those groups will need in order to review. And this next month in November is when we start to seek that input from community members. With regards to our website, today Nancy Battaglia, our Director of Technology, had a parent group in to look at the website and to make some suggestions. Again, our goal is to make it as user-friendly as possible. And again, we're continuing to get positive feedback from the various groups. Our Finance Committee had an opportunity to look at it and provide some input as well, and Nancy is incorporating those thoughts and suggestions. Nancy will be at the November 5th board meeting to kind of show the board what we've been working with, and then also to seek board input at that time as well. And again, by mid-November, definitely it should be up and running. So we're excited about that.
I just want to add to that Nancy reached out to us too, and I did spend quite a bit of time on that, on the website and talking with Nancy, and there's some very intuitive things on there that are very exciting. So I'm very excited.
And then there's nothing new with regards to Skyward. The superintendent coffee that I hosted last week, Matt attended, and we had, including Matt, 5 parents were there. And so we're able to communicate some of the things that we've done, some of the positive changes that we made in the district, and then also field some questions which will create the topics now for our next meeting with regards to some questions about the SMART goals that we have talked about within the district, and then also a PLC update, and if we're seeing the improvement and the progress that we would like to see as a result. The only thing that obviously I'd like to see is greater participation at those, and so if board members have any thoughts or ideas on how we can improve that attendance and get more parents, more of our community members involved, that would be great. So if you have any suggestions for that.
Controversy is always a good draw.
It is.
Can we vote him off the island, or how does that work?
Kevin, I would say the only suggestion I would have is maybe get it off school grounds somehow. Have it in a local restaurant, support the community a little bit. Okay, you know, obviously it wouldn't be funded by the district, but there's, I'm sure, lots of restaurants in town that would give us a few tables if we wanted to invite some people in. That might make it a more casual atmosphere too, and people might be more willing to come and talk and listen.
Sure.
Just as a thought.
No, that's a good idea.
You know, Kevin, I think that, and I was not in attendance because I don't have a high school student, but I believe that there was a meeting that's happened this fall that Mr. Balderman communicated very regularly, from what I hear from high school parents, and they had the greatest attendance he's ever had, highest percentage attendance.
Right.
So, I mean, I hate to say that, but you
Well,
know, there's some level at which that sort of constant reminder did seem to really make a difference for his attendance.
I think there's that piece, but then the other thing that occurred with that, which is a thought I had as well, the other possibility, if you had it at a different site, possibly it creates a different atmosphere. The other thing, if you can tie it to another event, and that high school meeting was prior to the curriculum night.
Sure.
And so obviously, if you can tie it to another event, then your attendance can improve as well, so.
Yeah,
that's
because
something
that was
we
the
can
night
also
that he
look
was
at.
talking about the AP
Right.
things, and I know there was a lot of really good questions about that.
I also want to say, you shared a video by Rick Wormelli, I think it was there, and that was outstanding. So I mean, I went back and showed my wife, and then I actually sent that link to a bunch of people I know. I was like, you got to see this. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
I was thinking too, maybe about a cop in the mornings.
Well, I was thinking time as well. You know, you
Maybe
might get a different
Different.
group. Sure.
How about outside the train station, as people are?
Yeah.
Well, not this
I'll
week.
go.
Not this week.
That would work. And then in terms of communication, you know, thank you to Kim Anderson and her work with our transportation company, Westway, and with all the communication that went out. But knock on wood, the transportation of our students has been relatively smooth with the crossing being under construction. And so our buses are arriving to each of our schools on time, and that was our goal. So appreciate all of Kim's work with that endeavor. But we did a nice job with that.
Oh, ye of little faith, Kim, well done. As I said at the last board meeting, it's gonna be bad, right? I said that. Sorry.
And then just another reminder, November 14th, we're going to have an open house at South for people to see the Early Childhood Center, the district office. It'll start at 6 and end at 7:30. I haven't received confirmation. There may be another conflict with that date that's outside of our control. I've heard word that possibly Lisa Hoopman, our science teacher at the high school, and her students were involved in the garden program. The village is interested in hearing about their project and recognizing them for their efforts. And that tentatively, they were talking about November 14th as well. So some of us may have to split our time between the open
Well, they
house.
could go here and then walk down the street.
Right, they're within walking distance, so.
Kevin, I just wanted to mention about communications. After the blast email went out about the new district website, I had quite a few questions because there wasn't a lot of information in that email. So I
Okay.
think next time there's going to be a blast communication about a brand-new website, might want to just consider some bullet points and maybe
Sure.
have it, because I had a couple of emails and some phone calls and that type of thing. It was just a little, seemed to
Sure.
raise more questions than it answered. It was good to say this is coming. I just think, you know, we want to make sure that there's some meat to it so that it doesn't create more than it, you know, fixes.
Yeah, I think the bullet points are a great idea, because I know for myself, I go to the website, typically I go in with a purpose. I'm going in to look for something. And when people are going in blind to look at it, they're not looking for something, so it's hard for them to try it out. We kind of say, hey, here's a reminder, look at the calendar, look what we did here. It doesn't have to go into detail.
Sure.
Just kind of say, check out these points, and that's a great idea.
Yeah. Good one.
In terms of communications, I would just like to ask one thing as we go forward. Now the new, and again, I know I talked to Nancy about this, and one of the pieces that we're going to have to educate our parents about is that the term blog and, what's the other one? Parent link are going to be
Parent link.
gone, and that's going to be called email alert. So that's one of those things that we probably want to start getting out there as quick as possible. Email alert is going to replace all that, and that and I know, because when Nancy and I talked, that there's information about explaining to parents how that's going to go on. The one thing that I would respectfully request, if we can, as somebody who gets the blogs or alerts every day from the schools, if we can make sure that the items in there are timely, because sometimes there's been things that have like already occurred or such, or that that all of the information is there. Like, for instance, like under sports, making sure that everybody knows what's happening and those kind of things.
Right.
Because, they might be on the calendar, but if you're, time is of the essence of all of us. Like Matt said, you go to the website for a specific reason. But most of the information that come out from the schools are fantastic. But if we can make sure that information that goes out, because it's not just about the students hearing it, it's also us as parents, especially if something's different, like a meeting or some such thing. So I would just ask that. Okay. Anything else? Okay, board reports. Are there any?
I'll jump in here.
Okay.
And just remind the people about the coat drive that the village is hosting. I remembered that when I walked in this morning. So through November 29th, coats being collected here at the Village Hall.
Excellent. I have a question. Do we know, have we yet heard from anybody yet when the train crossing will be finished? Do we?
End of the week?
Yeah, I was gonna check again tomorrow, and then we'll do another kind of email blast out to everyone.
Okay.
Because it was originally maybe Thursday or Friday. Right now, I talked with Westway today. We're planning on still doing the alternate schedule for Friday. Just
okay.
because I know they were gonna do some asphalting, but I don't know if with the little bit of precipitation that we got today, if that alters any of their schedule or not.
Okay. Okay, because that, again, with, it's been, I think there was a lot of information, over and over about the bus schedule.
Yeah, so we'll have, an update tomorrow.
And I don't have any information here other than just, I was thinking about when our next board meeting. I think the first weekend in November is the high school play.
Yes, it is.
And it's 2 one-act plays, I think, Alice in Wonderland and something else. So
Thanks, Aladdin.
Have we gotten any information about that?
I haven't, no, I'm just saying that.
Please.
I kind of thought that, I was just thinking about like when our next board meeting is, and I think that will be after that. So that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So, okay, anything else? Okay, are there any other public comments? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, and probable litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Napbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
And there will not be a motion after closed.